PBS Systems is our featured sponsor guest, and the topic is optimizing your DMS business platform for 2025. And Chuck Pappas, our VP of Operations, will come on in just a moment to kick things off. Chuck, go ahead and activate your webcam, and it's all yours.
Well, welcome everyone, and thanks for registering for another one of our profit improvement webinars. We're glad that you're joining us today. This afternoon, we're pleased to present Heather Hansen, the PBS Systems Regional Manager. Today, Heather will show you how to optimize your DMS business platform. We'll bring Heather on in just a minute, but we have a slide up right now, and if you're interested in a copy of this deck, just scan the QR code and we'll make sure that we'll get this off to you right away. Again, after you review it, I'm sure Heather will be able to answer any questions that you may have. We started this webinar series about 3 years ago, and in the course of these webinars, we presented a wide variety of category topics: audit recovery, reducing your shipping costs, marketing, dealer DMS systems, which is really the buzzword that's been going around for the last few months based on some terrible things that have happened, shop supplies, hidden opportunities that are in your service department, our popular buy-sell webinars, which seem to be pretty active nowadays, as well as revenue-producing opportunities, all intended to reduce your expenses and improve your profitability. If you're new to this series, we encourage you to stay tuned and to watch for other profit improvement topics that are coming up. With that, I'll turn it over to Heather. Heather, take it away.
Thanks so much. It's my pleasure to be here. And I appreciate the introduction, Chuck. We're going to be going through a few different areas of conversation today, starting with a focus on fragmented systems and data fragmentation and how we can identify that in the PBS environment that we come into every day, which is calling on dealerships across North America. To expand on the introduction that Chuck was able to provide for me, I have been with PBS since 1995. I usually make a joke at that point about being 10 years old or thereabouts when I started. It's been an interesting environment, to be sure. And specifically, when I started back in 1995, the company was 7 years old, and at that time, data fragmentation was a big issue happening in the industry, and we seem to have come full circle. So I'm going to take the opportunity as we go through the next couple of steps here to just learn a little bit more about you and share a little bit more about PBS, starting with a quick poll just so we can see who do we have in the room today, what your role is, and just get to know you a little bit. As we're going through the poll details here, you'll see them coming up on the screen here. I'll be sure to share that information with you once we get through. My background with PBS, when I started in 1995, was on the QA side. I helped design our help files. I helped go through the Q&A of new releases of the software. And from there, I migrated into a role that allowed me to go out onto the field and support our dealers on a day-to-day basis in the field. I spent about 10 years working with dealerships that were transitioning from other DMS systems onto the PBS platform. And through that, I learned a lot about the other systems that are in the market outside of PBS. And for the last 10 years specifically, I have had the good fortune of traveling up and down the Pacific coastline, introducing the PBS software to several other dealerships who are or were at the time in the market to look at other systems. Now, looking at the poll we have right here, I'll just go ahead and complete the poll right now. It looks like we've got a few folks from the dealer management industry, some folks from the service department, as well as some associated members here as well. So when we look through the questions, if there's anything that you'd like me to focus on specifically from a service perspective or from an associate perspective, let me know. I'd be happy to focus on your specific area and your specific topic. Now, when we're going through the subject matter over the next 40 to 45 minutes, talking about fragmentation, we're going to talk about how you can identify fragmented business systems in your dealership. We're going to talk about what the challenges that data fragmentation can create for your business. We're going to talk about the essential steps that PBS provides to address fragmented systems and what you can do to optimize your DMS business tools for 2025. As I mentioned, from a business perspective, I have had the good fortune of being with PBS for quite a long time. And over the course of the 20 plus years that I've been with the company, it really has changed. The dynamics of what we need to deliver have changed. And from the little F&I company that we began as back in 1988, we've grown to now be one of the leading DMS providers in the market. We are the #1 provider in Canada. And according to NADA statistics, I think we're around third or fourth North America wide. We have currently over 3,000 dealerships that are using our software. That's primarily new franchise dealerships. And we're very well known in the industry for being innovative in our approach and in providing exceptional customer service to the automotive sector. The company itself, when we started, was founded by David and Marilyn Bradley, family-run business. Their children, Chris and Shelley, are still with us and managing the business along with Dave and Marilyn today. And it creates a really wonderful environment to work within when everybody knows each other. There's many people like myself who have been with the company for an extended amount of time. And as a result of that, there's extremely good internal communications, which our customers feel every day in their interactions with us. From a business perspective, I think the first time I came in contact with the automotive industry and the challenges that were involved in how the dealership needs to work with system information and computers to help them do their jobs was when my husband became a sales representative for a local dealership in Calgary, Alberta, where we live. And from there, he moved forward to become a fleet and lease manager. And after that, a F&I manager, and then he left the business. And through my own work at PBS and the communications with my husband in his retail environment, it really gave me a rounded vision of what the industry requires. At PBS, we've been taking those kind of insights in all of the employees that we bring on board. Many people are past general managers, former service advisors, controllers, parts managers, parts counter personnel, even technicians throughout the staff that we have. And we currently have just over 600 employees now managing the support and development and ongoing training for our dealers across North America. Our 6 physical offices are located in Dallas, Fort Worth, Dubuque, Iowa, Spanish Fort, Alabama, and then we have 3 offices on the Canadian side as well, 2 in Calgary and 1 in Toronto, Ontario. So we do a really good job at having brick and mortar resources right across the country, which helps with all different areas of deployment. I mentioned in the slide here that on average, we're growing in the hundreds. 3 years ago, when I did my first presentation for StrategicSource, I was saying at that time that we were doing about 200 installs per year. We've considerably exceeded that. And at this point in time, we're just over 300 new installs per year. So there's a lot of interest in the product. There's a lot of interest in what we're delivering. And not only are we continuing to grow, but we're actually getting the opportunity to maintain that growth. Over the last 20 years, I'm proud to be able to say that we've maintained 99% customer retention on an ongoing basis for the last 20 years. And that says a lot about what our dealers are getting from their relationship with PBS. But enough about us. Let's talk a little bit about the subject matter at hand. And when we look at what we're doing today, we want to talk specifically about data fragmentation. And if I start by saying, like, what is the definition of data fragmentation? It's a situation where different software programs or versions or configurations exist within a system and result in process inefficiencies, compatibility issues, and higher maintenance costs. The needs of today's dealerships have really changed over the last 20, 30, 40 years. And when you look at the core DMS systems that are out there, the top 5, use those as the example point, what you'll find is that there are many of the systems that are out there that were designed 30 or 40 years ago. And the tools that were available and the needs of a dealership 30 or 40 years ago is significantly different than the tools that we need to do business today. As a result, many of the dealer management systems that are on the market have decided to incorporate third-party products, other products that are available to bolt on to those core accounting parts and service programs that were written to enable their dealerships to still have the business tools that are required today. In some instances, this design model of multiple systems has had a direct impact on creating fragmentation in the dealer's work environment. So let's talk a little bit about how we can identify that. Specifically, we have a situation that can occur where there may be inconsistent customer information. If I use the front end or the starting block of customer engagement as an example, you might see that one system is being used by the sales department to capture new customer information, a walk-in customer to the dealership, for example, and the name, the address, what they're looking for, that detail is going into one computer system. Depending on the engagement between that system and the core DMS, when the information transfers across, it may need to be manually re-entered. It may only be transferred over in part. And as a result, you may end up with inconsistent customer information. Somebody put it in as James in one system and Jim in a different system. We also have an issue with data silos that occur. And in some instances, it's because of the fact that there are multiple systems. But in other instances, it's simply the design of the core program itself. Back 40 years ago, the way technology worked and the way information was structured, it was a very siloed environment. So you had all parts information in one silo, all service information in another silo, all accounting information in a third silo, and all sales information in a fourth silo. Those different silos of information also lead to duplicate information. In some DMSs that are out there, you cannot see a customer that has come into the parts department in the service department until you create a work order for them in the service department. You can't see somebody that has visited the showroom of the dealership if they haven't also come into the service department, just because of the dissimilarity between the systems that may be in place. Those data silos can sometimes create inconsistency in communication with what a customer has or hasn't purchased across the different departments as well. And the combination of those first two items, the inconsistency of customer information and the data silos that can occur, build their own steps and process inefficiencies. If you noticed on the slide image that I've created there, I made a note of just a few of the different areas where I see duplicate or dissimilar information systems within the car dealerships that I visit. Scanned information being in one spot, CRM communications, as I mentioned, being completely separate. parts estimating tools being done in a different system, e-contracting being done in another system. They're just a handful of examples of where you can see the different communication points and the different data storage areas across the different dealerships. And all of these things combined end up creating process inefficiencies. You might have repetitive manual tasks that could be automated if we were not dealing with such fragmented systems. You might see delays in customer orders or service requests due to a lack of coordination between the different system areas. And you might need to cross-reference different information sources across different systems. Email, for example, in some dealerships, the email is in one system, the texting is in another system, the purchase information is in yet a third system. So that combination or breakdown of data can often lead to some fairly extreme employee frustration. And when we're talking about employee frustration and the visible employee frustration that might come up in that environment, you visualize that by seeing mistrust in the system. And when an employee feels frustrated and mistrusts the system, they may give the impression that the company itself is unorganized or unprofessional, or worse, that the company simply doesn't care about providing accurate or reliable information. And all of those things combine to erode confidence in your brand. So our whole goal in what we'll be talking about over the course of the next half an hour or so is to help you identify those fragmentation areas and look at ways to improve upon them in your store itself. And on top of these physical things that we've talked about now, there are added internal and external expenses that come as a result of data fragmentation too. You look at performance metrics and how you reward your staff when you're using multiple systems that measure KPIs in different areas. When we take a look at the learning and the ongoing education that's required when you bring a staff member on board, and how many different systems you need to introduce them to, how many different screens they have to memorize in order to function day to day at their job. If it's a challenging environment for them, it will lead to staff turnover rates, which can again indicate dissatisfaction with the organizational structure and impact internal expenses associated with staffing. Now, from a business perspective, we have a technology consideration as well. The technology consideration, hardware that's being used, printers that are being used, some systems might require one operating system, other systems might require a different operating system. So there's technology challenges that can come up as well as part of the fragmentation management. So I think our friends at SSI do a fantastic job at helping you identify where you're overspending on both soft and hard costs compared to other dealers. And fragmentation is just one of those areas that should be part of what we're measuring here. I'd like to bring up the screen for a quick moment here, and let's do another poll about where you might see some specific components of fragmentation in your dealership. What have you identified already in your environment? We'll just give everybody a moment to respond here. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. So from the poll, we'll go ahead and share the poll results, because a lot of people do see the same thing that I see, that there are often data fragmentation areas between sales and fixed ops. From a business perspective, one of the ways I see that being identified is when there is an after-sale product, whether it's an extended warranty or a protection package. How do you see that communication being relayed between the front end and the back end of the store. But the reality is there are challenges in all of these different areas. When we take a look at the software components that we offer in PBS, for example, we've done a really good job at helping manage the communications across all of them. And when I think about the individual components, the areas between sales and finance, for example, that could be a sales representative starting a lead in the CRM and then the F&I manager having to re-enter all of that information. In the sales to fixed ops environment, it could be a WEO or a due bill that's not being properly communicated. Between sales and accounting, it could be expenses associated with a vehicle delivery or a drop-off that's not being handled in the software simply because there isn't no place to put that information in the software. And within the service department itself, the communication between the advisor and the technician and the requirements between the advisor and the technicians. And lastly, between service and parts, communication on the parts deliverables and availability. All of those different things are areas where we can see significant breakdowns in processes between the different departments. And I think the reason why throughout the poll we see a slightly higher level between sales and fixed ops is simply because there are that many more places where the sales department has additional systems in place. So I'm going to go ahead now and continue on with a little bit of information for you on how PBS ourselves are natively looking to mitigate data fragmentation. In our DMS, we start the environment by creating a customer and vehicle record that sits right in the center of all of the different business areas. Where 40 years ago or 30 years ago, when a software system was being designed, it was put in those silos that we had talked about. In the PBS software, we've put the customer and vehicle record right in the middle. So when an F&I person sells an extended warranty and attaches that extended warranty to the vehicle that's being sold, it is the exact same vehicle record that's being accessed by the service department. So there is no the breakdown in information. It's the exact same record. When a customer walks in, whether it's the service department as their first place of walk-in to get their vehicle serviced, or whether it's the sales department, it's the exact same customer record that's being accessed by both departments. And as a result of that, you end up having a much cleaner data set, much less duplication of customer records, and much more accurate information across all of the different departments. The other way that we've natively mitigated the data fragmentation is through our software design. We have a built-in CRM that we've added to the system for, I think, nearly 10 years now. It's been part of the core system so that notes being entered by a sales rep for a prospect are added to the database, and we have that customer record, allowing the service department to market to prospects as well as to existing customers that have purchased through the sales department. We have the ability to, through that CRM, keep all communications in one place, whether it's an outbound text message or an inbound email message. All of the communication detail will be stored in one central repository under that customer record, and it's your individual user permissions that allow you to see just your own department's information or a more extended version of the customer communications. We also have attachments that can be scanned and attached by work item. So natively speaking, anything that's digitally signed will automatically be an attached document as part of the document record, whether that is an e-signature being captured in the service department, or whether it's a contract being signed or a document being signed in the sales department. Those are natively attached, but then each department also has the opportunity to scan and attach documents to their individual work items as well. We almost always include some form of third-party reduction as part of our installs. And I say that loosely because it's important for you to know that at PBS, we don't want you to feel that you have to get rid of a third-party system. We just give you the opportunity to do so. If you have a third party that you're working with today that you have a wonderful relationship with, the odds are really high that they're already a partner of PBS, and we would be happy to continue working with that vendor as part of your relationship. In fact, through PBS, and our API, or application protocol interface, we put zero restrictions on our partners on how they communicate with the PBS system. They have the opportunity to pull or push information once a day or as often as they would like without restriction. We leave that completely up to them. Now, the fact that we have such feature-rich design means that perhaps you don't need to have a third-party tool anymore for texting. Perhaps you don't need to have a third-party tool anymore for your CRM or for your service drive or for your internal chat communications. With all of those features being part of the PBS software, now you have the opportunity to potentially reduce some expenses and minimize some of the areas of potential data fragmentation. We do the level of feature design that we do because at PBS we've chosen a business model that says, hey, if the industry says we need it, let's just make it a feature in the software. And earlier in the conversation, when I mentioned that we were the first to market and that we're known for being innovative, 1995 is when we came out with our first Windows system. And that was, in fact, where we got the very first Windows system that was ever released as a DMS. And PBS was that leader. We were the first ones to integrate email capabilities, the first ones to integrate texting capabilities, the first ones to integrate e-commerce capabilities. And we lead the industry in so many of these areas because we're meeting with our dealers every year on an ongoing basis to gather their direct input on what we should be doing next with the software. Our most recent dealer conference was just this past September. We were in Nashville, Tennessee, and we had the opportunity to meet with our dealers over a 3-day window, talk about what we've been doing with the software, where we're going with the software next, and gather their direct feedback. In fact, as the closing part of our meetings this year, we took a vote on several different items that had been brought up as enhancement areas and allowed the people that were sitting at the conference to determine what should be the priority moving forward with that software. You take that direct engagement opportunity and the annual attendance that we do at conferences and industry environments like NADA, and the awareness that we maintain of what's changing in the industry through those input factors, and that's how we continue to evolve the software. The combination of those environments, our dealer conference, the NADA and other industry events, and our desire to be forefront and get those check marks as the new components become available from an OEM or in the industry, those are the things that allow us to create the feature-rich software we have today. And unlike most of the other DMS systems that are out there in the market, PBS has actually gone back to the drawing board and redesigned our software from the ground up, not just once, but 4 different times over the last 30 plus years. Not because it was broken, but simply because your industry, the industry of the automotive environment, has changed so dramatically over the last 30 years that we really have needed to go back and refresh that environment with something that meets the needs of today's dealers. There are some things that we need to consider when we're looking at what's involved in data fragmentation and how you can resolve data fragmentation within your environment. And if you're looking at another system or the potential of reviewing different dealer management systems as one of the ways you do that, I've brought up about 10 different things that I believe would be of good value for you to consider and focus on within the business environment. The first one is integration capabilities. Look for systems that are going to minimize the number of third-party tools that you're going to have to rely on, or that must be incorporated in order to deliver your business needs today. When it isn't possible to minimize that, look for systems that integrate well. Be specific on what are the data components that do transfer back and forth, and how do those data points transfer back and forth. Look for a user-friendly interface, something that's going to be easy for an employee, especially a brand new employee, to be able to follow and figure out. You want to be looking to a system that offers scalability and customizability. You don't want to have a system that will only fit your current needs. It has to be able to grow with your business environment as your business needs change and as your dealership expands, whether that's through growth in your staff and your sales volumes in the different departments, or whether that's through additional rooftops that you might be adding in to your business platform. Any of the different environments that you look at for growth need to be able to handle additional data volume and additional functionalities without requiring a complete overhaul. So look for that scalability and customizing capability based on your growth. We also have a recommendation for comprehensive features and options for vendor reductions. Some of the examples that I've shown here, talking about the different products that PBS does a very good job at eliminating because of those features that are built directly into the software, and department areas that you can look at, whether it's sales, inventory management, customer relationship management. As much as you can get in one platform, the better. It just reduces the amount of potential risk that you have by eliminating those duplication points. Also would suggest looking at systems that can provide good and strong data management and reporting capabilities for you. Look at software that provides you the ability to create your own custom reports. How much can you get out of the system, not just how much information you're putting into the system? What are those export tools like? Are they easy to use? Where in the system can you export data? And what are the limitations in data exportability? All part of what you're looking for. The last few items, from vendor support down to mobility access, are very specific to each of the different systems. So spend a good amount of time evaluating the level of support that the different vendors offer and the quality of that support based on references, social media, other information that's out there. What are their training offers that are available after go live, during the preparation for go live, and what is the ongoing communication like with that specific vendor? What is the style of communication that they use? Are you text only? Are you chat only? Do you have to phone in? Do you have a combination of multiple ways of communicating with that vendor? Where is their support located physically, and what are the hours of availability? Those things also come into strong consideration. From a security and compliance perspective, you want to verify that the software adheres to industry standards as far as data security and compliance is concerned, protecting you and your sensitive information, your data, to ensure that there's regulatory adherence. It's been a big thing in the last 6 months or so here, as we have gone through some evolution in the industry with the different cyber attacks that have happened right across business in North America. And it's not a matter anymore of if it will happen to you, it's a matter of when it will happen to you. And so making sure that the vendor you select is staying top of form with security and compliance in as many areas as possible is a critical part of any considerations. Cost effectiveness as a business area, looking at the total cost of ownership, not just the upfront costs or the monthly cost, but the total cost of ownership. If you select a specific vendor, are there other areas of data or vendor reduction that can come into place? What are the ongoing costs? And many times people look at an environment as a fixed window. There may be an agreement or a contract that's in place that is for a fixed number of months. And in that environment, you may have a window or an analysis for cost investment that you're looking at that is just that term. Look beyond that initial term. Instead of doing 5 years, 4 years, 7 years, whatever it might be, expand beyond that and look at what the next renewal period would be and what are the costs that are associated after that initial term has expired. When you look at those considerations beyond just one evaluation period, it can sometimes change the cost effectiveness of a specific vendor. So make sure you look at all the different options there. And again, user reviews and case studies. Look to what the social media is saying about a specific vendor. Talk to customers then in your Dealer 20 groups that are already using those different systems or who have used those different systems, and get that real world experience relayed to you as well. And lastly, I put down mobility accessibility, but it's really more than just being mobile, whether it's a mobile app for the service department or a mobile app for the sales department to use, mobility tools for vehicle inventory scanning. It's really in that environment, the 10th item would be forward thinking. What is coming for new development with that specific vendor, and what are the options associated with those new components? Now, looking at these different considerations, this is all assuming that you're in a position to actually move forward with another vendor and look at a different DMS platform as an option for helping improve the data fragmentation that you might have with your current vendor. So in that environment, that's really the focus of these considerations. But not everybody has those options available to them right now. So when you're looking to optimize for 2025, just make sure that you're doing a good job at considering all of the different areas. Establish clear goals for what you want to do for data fragmentation, where we're identifying the areas that we've talked about earlier, finding out what tasks you might be able to automate, looking at your cybersecurity strength, looking at your focus on your user experience and how you can improve that environment, exploring your new technologies that might be available, and getting team collaboration moving forward and feedback from the different people on your team to be able to pull the information together. These are all the different things that you can think of, whether you're moving to a different DMS or staying with your current DMS, to help build a better 2025 based on the tools that you have in place today and what your options might be. From a business perspective, one of the most important things is being able to have this starting block and the ability to create a core area of measurement and deliverable based on the specific items noted on the slide in front of us. I think when I take a look at these core components, it really brings me to a quick question for you. With everything that's been happening this year, where do you sit? Are you in a position where you're actively looking for different systems right now? Are you reviewing these components right now? Is it something that's coming up in the future, or just a good discussion point? It is definitely an environment where with the audience that we have today, we're basically 50-50 between option A and B, whether it's something that's immediate or something that's near up and coming within the next 12 months as far as the different options are concerned. And I find that many people are in that environment today. So from a PBS perspective, one of the things that we want to do is make sure that you feel comfortable with the information that we've gone over today, and that we've got an opportunity here for some questions and answers before we wrap up. I've got about a couple more slides here, and then I'll turn it back over to Chuck and the team. I wanted to share with you some of the frequently asked questions that we have. People often will say, you've mentioned that your company's been in business for 30 years. Why haven't I heard of PBS before? And hopefully that's not your case, but if it is, I can explain that we don't do a lot of online marketing. Our physical presence in the market and the growth that we've been having has been very directly through people like myself that are our feet on the street in different areas, and the word of mouth that has come from our dealers to their peers. And whether that's through dealer 20 groups or local community activities that they're doing. And that business has been enough to give us the success that we've seen, where we're growing by 20% year over year, maintaining that 99% accuracy and retention in our customer base. People often ask what our training and our installation process looks like and how long does that window take. If you're actively looking for a new system right now, I would suggest that anywhere between 12 to 24 months is a really good time to begin looking at the system. And from PBS's perspective, once you select PBS, we have a 4-stage process that we use that includes the ability to view or discover business components and tools that you're using today, what's critical to your business, where you want to see improvements. The second phase would be having a technical resource come on site and get the PBS software set up for you. The third environment would be our training, our online computer-based training steps that we do, preparing the dealership for the change in system, giving you an opportunity to have hands-on access to the system, and then wrapping up with the physical on-site component of it, which includes not only the time that our resources are in the dealership, but also a follow-up visit several weeks to months after you've been installed to make sure that the change is being well adopted across all of the departments in your stores. So that is the basic area and flow that we have for training and post-install. Of course, after you're comfortably installed with the software, we also have an ongoing training level of various kinds, whether it's live instructor-led, computer-based training that you do on your own, or sessions that we do on core topics in our global training. All of those different environments are available to our dealers forever and as often as they would like on an ongoing basis. Another question that comes up all the time is where our support teams are located. They're all North American based. Our corporate office in Calgary, Alberta has the majority of our support staff, but our Dallas office, our Dubuque office, and our Alabama office all have direct support personnel as well. And then assuming the software is all inclusive, the last thing that people often come up to me with is whether or not there's anything we don't offer. And at this point, there are a few things that we don't do. We don't currently have a system for vehicle detailing and or for body shop services. That's not something that we currently offer, but we are open to partnering with anybody that looks at that. We do have the ability to migrate information from some systems that are there, but it's not a product that we currently offer. Other than that, I think we do a very good job from a robustness of system information, and be happy to share specific details with anybody that's interested. For the people that are sitting on the session today, I did want to let you know that we do have an assessment offer here. Anybody who's participated today and elects to move forward with PBS will be eligible to receive 2 months of software maintenance and support at no charge should they elect to move forward with the PBS V10 business platform. That offering is available to you as the individual sitting in on the session today, but it also includes any of the stores that might be involved in a group scenario, only if, even if only you are the attendee from the group in today's event. This is something that will expire as of March 31st, 2025. So for those of you that indicated that you are looking in the next 6 to 12 months, I hope there's an opportunity to engage directly. in relation to this specific offer. I think from a roundup perspective here, I'm just going to say that over 70% of the time when a dealership does look at PBS and our dealer management software, they end up buying our software. Our story is that compelling. I've put a few specific benefits on the screen for you here as a quick summary and as a review after the presentation if you're reviewing the slide deck independently. I think I've covered off on most of the items that are here, but I welcome any further conversations on these items as well. We truly are an organization that cares. And from a business perspective, I think one of the main reasons that people select our DMS is because of the culture of doing business with PBS. And I look forward to expanding on that further. A couple testimonials for you from people that have used this system. So I'll just leave these up on the screens here for a quick minute. And I think that wraps up the conversation from my perspective. Are there any questions that I can assist with?
Yeah, let's head into that portion of the time together. Everyone, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and you can type a question in there, and we'll cover as many as those as we can during the remaining time. All right, here's one. What is the main reason people select your DMS platform?
That's a great question. Thank you so much. I believe that one of the main things that people look at when they select PBS is the fact that we have ongoing development combined with defragmentation of the different systems, making it easier for people to learn the software. And the fact that we are continually re-engaging with the dealers on an annual basis, allowing us to build a strong and ongoing culture that people find compelling. That would be the main reason. Some people think it might be price, but from a reality perspective, it's the ongoing relationship and the culture of doing business with PBS that has them selecting us over other vendors.
All right, here's another. What is the largest dealer group your company currently supports?
I would say the largest is just over 70 stores in one group spread across both Canada and the United States. That would be our largest group environment that we have. From a single business entity, we have our largest single campus would be about 1,700 employees, which operates as a single business entity. Those would be the two largest. Great questions, Chuck. Thank you.
Again, the Q&A button is at the bottom of your screen if you want to continue to ask questions of Heather with our remaining time. But right now, Chuck, let's have you reactivate your webcam, and we'll go into the next segment, and Heather continue to monitor what comes in via Q&A.
Well, we would encourage all of you to reach out to Heather to find out more about optimizing your DMS business platform for 2025. She gave you a lot of interesting information to be able to look at that with some good experience about the folks in that company. So you have Heather's contact information on this slide, so we would encourage you to contact her. The webinar will be up on our website here in the next day or so. So just scan the QR code that's on here, supply your information, and we'll get you a copy. We'll get you a copy of that right away. For anyone thinking about their expenses right now, the question is, how much money are you leaving on the table? Most dealerships are overspending on supplies and services by 25% each month. There's about 150 expense categories out there that you can spend your money. Most dealers will spend in roughly 100 of those categories. Spend as a percent of sales equals about 5%. So if you're doing $100 million in sales, that 5% equates to $5 million. 25% of that looks like about $1,250,000 on an annual basis, which you have the ability to save with StrategicSource. 95% of the dealerships in the United States are decentralized, meaning they do not have a purchasing department or any type of process for doing that purchase, and the locations have the freedom to select whoever they want to buy from. Strategic Source can be that purchasing partner for you. The business problems that you experience is that there's just way too many categories. Typically, there is not a plan to effectively attack categories. Dealers are short-staffed. Strategic Source has a lot of experience in cost reduction and analytics. Last year, we completed over 2,300 sourcing projects in the expense categories that are used by car dealerships. Expense challenges that you have. Dealers are typically overpaying for supplies by 25%, as we told you earlier. There's a broad scope of categories. There are too many suppliers to manage, too many supplier invoices to process. Just go in your accounting office, you can get a view of that. And there are too few discounts and rebates that get taken or even offered sometimes. So the question or challenge becomes, how do you simplify that? A lot of you people have been on our webinars on more than one occasion. Some of you are customers and some of you are not. If you're not a customer of Strategic Source, get your phone out and take a picture of this slide. So I'm going to tell you, this slide shows what the annual savings opportunity might be for 4 different size revenue groups, ranging from 60 million to 300 million in annual sales revenue, and what that savings could look like to you on a monthly basis. Remember, the cost savings drop to the bottom line, so it has an immediate impact on your profitability. Our expense category scope, we'll just touch on this for a minute, but there are 72 categories regardless of what kind of a business you're in. If you're a dealership, a church, manufacturing company, or a service provider, you're likely to spend in these 72 categories. If you're an automotive dealer, there's another 56 expense categories that, so you can see that the scope of work is quite large, up to like 130 to 150 categories, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. If you own your facility or if you're leasing it, you probably are spending in these 15 categories that are on the next slide. Yeah, on these 15 categories that you'll probably spend money on. Our Strategic Source Solutions. We have a profit improvement program, a very popular profit improvement program. We manage the process of conducting a financial analysis of your spending. We do spend category planning. We source money-saving solutions for your spend categories. We implement solutions. We review and perform supplier compliance audits to make sure that you're getting the pricing that the supplier said that you would give. The problem Strategic Source solves and helps you correct are high expenses and broad supplier bases. Another tool is our strategic spend analysis. This is more of a strategic look, broad look at your expenses. And if you're working on your upcoming budget or anything that you're trying to figure out how much money you can save yourself, this is more of a strategic look for you at your expenses. So we analyze them, we put them in the correct category buckets, we build a plan for you to execute. Client benefits are, of course, you get organized, prioritized plan, and a good staff planning tool, all with the idea that we can help direct you to a 25% savings. Contract Tracker. Most dealers have a number of contracts, actually many more contracts than you probably even realize. But keeping current and managing all the terms of these contracts can be a pretty daunting task. SSI Contract Tracker gives you contract visibility, advance alerts on expiration dates, and risk management, because you may need to renegotiate that and you may need some time to put that together to renegotiate with that supplier. This is a very valuable tool. SSI Spend Management Suite solved the problems of poor staff planning, no contract management, and high prices and weak profits. SSI Spend Management Suite provides strategic focus, contract tracking, improved prices, and profits. Expense Edge was created from our database of thousands of price comps. This is kind of similar to a Home Depot. We provide the tools and solutions for you to do the work. We give you the data points to keep your costs down, and you take it on yourself. Spend management learning. We do a lot of training in the areas of spend management. We have trained many folks and we do many webinars in Purchasing 101, 102, and 103. Simply put, we can actually teach your team to do what our team does. Hopefully this has been a helpful presentation. Again, scan this QR code and we'll get information out to you right away. Thanks again, Heather Hansen from PBS Systems for her presentation. We really appreciate that. As a note, StrategicSource does not take any type of compensation from our suppliers, but we do know that we have vetted them. We know that what their work product is, and we know how competitive they can be. We would encourage you to take a deeper look at our suppliers' offerings. Thanks again for attending today. David?
All right. Thank you, Chuck. And thank you, Heather, and everyone for attending today. We have a real quick before you leave survey. I always like to get your input on the roughly hour spent with us. And there you have it right on the screen. So thank you, everyone, for your time today. And we look forward to you joining us on future Profit Improvement Series webinars with StrategicSource. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.